Hey guys and girls, Bored now, back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of Poker Face Season 2. Episode 1 is called The Game is Afoot, Episode 2 The Last Look, and Episode 3 Whack-a-Mole. Cover most of Season 1 on the channel, and I was very positive on it a couple of years ago. It was like one of those little streaming gems that we've had in the last few years, and just a real surprise, and as this very sort of quirky, fresh spin on like the Columbo format, but with obviously the Tasha Leone as Charlie Cale. I think she's very much in her element, and yeah, just the whole going across the US and taking in these different cities in different types of characters and settings, but then the kind of ongoing thing of she's being pursued by these mobsters. I actually found out quite recently the font that they use for like the Poker Face title is the same font they used in the old Columbo series, so that really was something that I thought, oh yeah, that's really cool. They're going to town on that reference. The end of Season 1, which I didn't mind, I actually quite liked it, was the way it reverted back to the status quo in many ways, because they resolved the thing with Charlie and the Ron Perlman character, and that all played out. But then it turns out there's these other like mob family who now want revenge and want to get to Charlie. Of the show really works, like the format of it's mostly case of the week, but she's like a different city, and as I said, there's quite a flavour to like each setting, and like you just get different kind, like obviously the rock band from last season and the whole thing with them and the race car, and just different things that give each episode quite a distinct feel. But then, as I said, in the background you've got the sort of main plot of the season like bubbling away. The thing I'm going to talk about as I get into like episode 3 particularly is that there are a couple of little twists, and it was surprising to me how quickly they resolved that main thing with this other mobster and the families chasing Charlie. And I guess it's because they didn't want it to just be like it was in Season 2, where it kind of lasted the season and then it came to a head at the end of the season. I think they wanted it to be resolved quicker than that. Charlie is on good form, and you've got some good guest stars in there. I would say episode 1 was my favourite, and then the middle one, despite having a couple of good guest stars, the middle one was my least favourite. Not that it was bad necessarily, I just wasn't quite as into it as the other two. And then because of some of the stuff that episode 3 did, which was quite unique and had a couple of twists in there, I was enjoying what episode 3 was doing. The game is afoot, which is a great pun. Charlie investigates like a seemingly innocent looking kill in this family, and this is the one with Cynthia Erulia of Wicked fame. And it's sort of funny timing it coming out now, because Wicked came out just at the end of last year. They would have done this episode before then. He plays all these multiple characters within this family, but it turns out like there's some twists in there, like a fraudster and taking her identity. And when she gets to like this person's trailer, like an identical person, and so she realised she's got like a long lost sister, and then you start getting into like the whole family line after what happens. So basically the sister seems to kill the other one off. The one who basically the death fakes her own death is like, she turns out to be a different person who isn't actually related to the family, but she just wanted to take advantage of, play all these different characters, and she's just so good in it. Like, she just plays each one so well. You can tell she's having a real blast. And as I said, there's different kind. The one I enjoyed the most was the French one, like the really snooty sort of posh French one. And I think it was just because she didn't say that much, but when she did say something, it was really funny. Like, a lot of times, like, the other characters would have like a little bit more to say and a little bit more energy, and then the French sort of well-spoken one would just have like a snooty little comment or observation at the end of it. So that was really entertaining. But yeah, she's a good actress and she's having a lot of fun. And again, I think this show at times is very tongue in cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think you see that in this episode. Like, I don't think you're meant to take it that seriously, but just the performance of Olivia and all these different connections and different things that are going on in this family, and the whole Footloose gag is really funny as well, because like, she's obviously like lost her foot, and it ramps up quite nicely. Also enjoyed the old TV show which some of the sisters were on, and just how that was like recreated. It had such a retro, trashy B-movie sort of feel. That was a blast as well. They really went to town on that. So too, The Last Looks. This one is interesting. I think quite a lot of people have enjoyed this one. And I would say I enjoyed it mostly. So it's set at this family funeral home, and they're filming a movie there, and Charlie kind of comes in and works on the movie. And you've got Giuseppe Esposito out of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. He's the one who owns the funeral home and has done for years. And he's in a relationship with Katie Holmes's character. And like, they've been together about 20 years, but there's a little bit of an age gap, and they're quite different people. You know, he's quite sort of uptight and stuffy and very like particular about the way the funeral home should be treated. Like, in like the early scene, he's getting quite snooty about the terminology in the film about funeral homes, and yeah, what characters should be saying or like how they should be acting. And you can just see he's a very serious guy, but someone who maybe takes this stuff too seriously. Katie Holmes' character wants to leave him. Like, their relationship isn't going that well. She befriends Charlie, by the way, which is Charlie starts hanging around Offset with her and a bunch of others. Doesn't want her to leave him. He kills her. And this is one of the clever parts of the episode, because in the film they've been doing, there's been like a murder type scene, and someone gets like whacked over the head and you get like this blood splatter. And so he just visualizes that in his head, and he recreates that, and that's how he kills the Katie Holmes character. I thought for a minute there was going to be a twist. Like, I just thought maybe she was going to turn the tables on him, or that there was going to be some sort of twist. But no, it literally just, that's how he kills her. And I quite like that, like the visual of it, of how he disposes of the body. Like, he literally puts her in the incinerator, and yeah. And then, you know, he gets rid of her with, like, as the crew are leaving, he, like, plants the ashes. Esposito character pretends to be, like, upset and says, oh, she just left me during the night, or she left this morning. And, like, he plays it up like he's upset and Charlie, of course, starts to smell a rat, and as things escalate, she like accuses him and thinks, yeah, you've done something. But then there is like a text message with a picture of the Katie Holmes character and kind of saying, okay, I'm here, blah blah blah, and at first Charlie pauses, but then she unravels another couple of things and eventually gets like the truth. So I still quite like this one. Esposito is very good. Like he's really good at playing these sort of like overly fussy kind of, yeah, sort of like quite unhinged sort of character. I guess in like Better Call Saul, his character is a lot more like composed and like measured, but like in this, you slowly start to see him get more and more unhinged, and I think that's entertaining. And him and Holmes have decent chemistry. I don't think she's that amazing, to be honest, in the episode. I think it's maybe they don't really give her that much to do. Like I've always thought she's a decent enough actress, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't think she was like a standout in this episode. We've done like a version of this story before a little bit where it's just okay, it's a slightly younger girl who loses interest in her husband. She wants to move away, and then like I'm not saying the exact same, but they have done a similar thing. I also like the song which she sings, like I forgot which one it was, but quite a famous song which she sings at one point, and that becomes important, and that's one of the things this show does well, like that sort of little detail, like a song, which they then bring back into play later on. So it's definitely a solid and enjoyable episode. I just thought it was a little bit more mixed than maybe the other two. Out him and they get into like a scuffle. Basically, the house just burns down, and she escapes, and he kills, or he gets, and he smiles. It's almost like a poetic moment. It's like, if I'm gonna go out, this is the way I want to go out. But I thought that was a little bit anticlimactic of a cliffhanger, because when Charlie goes back to the car, someone's there pointing the gun, and it turns out it's Rhea Perlman, Cheers, who is like the head of this family who's been hunting her down. So that's it. She's got her at gunpoint, and she's, yeah, I've got an issue to settle with you. And that's the end of that episode. So that goes into the next episode. Episode 1 was more a little bit different than we normally get, because normally the format is you see what happens and then it jumps back in time and you see Charlie, like she'll be working as part of somewhere, or she'll have some connection to the characters, and you'll see how she figures it out. Episode 1 didn't do that. That's what I'm trying to say. Episode 1, you saw the thing be committed, but then it stayed in the same time period when Charlie's introduced. So the crime has already happened when Charlie's introduced. Whereas in episode 2, they actually do it the old way in episode 2, where you see what happens and then you see it from Charlie's point of view. But anyway, episode 3 is a little bit of a twist. The Perlman character wants Charlie to find a mole in the mob, to be a mole in the FBI from the mob. So that's basically the setup, is that Charlie's got to figure out who both moles are. There's your person. Best of luck. And the head of the mob is like, oh no, you're not going anywhere, because we've got this plane trip and you're coming with us, because I want you to basically solve it. The FBI show up out of the blue, this big shootout, and things go crazy basically. So you've got like a character played by Richard Kind, and he gets killed or appears to get killed in the skirmish. We'll come back to that. I mean, he is dead, but there's a whole thing. What the twist is, it appears like he shouldn't be dead. The things from the FBI perspective, and a little bit from the mob perspective, but basically we find out who the two moles are. The regular FBI guy who we've had, who's helped out Charlie before and also been after her at one point. He knows who's a friend of his. He's the mole in the mob, and it's, this quite eccentric guy who's into like drinking half and half milk. The scene of the episode, and probably the scene of all 3 episodes, is like this hilarious lips reading scene. So this guy who's in the FBI but also the mole, he gets this lip reader to read what is being said in like the other car, where it's like, because the Richard Kind character is like the other mole, the one who the FBI is using to give, which is funny because like by admission he doesn't know shit about what's going on. Like he knows his wife is a mobster, but he doesn't know shit about what she actually does. Funny about this guy lip reading and the reactions of the other guy, and how at one point he's going to shoot himself because he thinks he's going to be outed, and then the other person, like, he doesn't say in the end. And it's just all this like reaction stuff, and it's just one of these scenes where you can't really say why it's funny, but it just is funny. And there's another like gem of a scene later on, and it's after they've arrested like the FBI guy who's the mole, and he tries to bribe Charlie basically, and he makes her an offer like, okay, I can pay it into your offshore account, and it's like, I don't even have an onshore account, which is a great line. And then he starts upping the offer a little bit, and it just goes from one extreme to the other, because it's like quite a low sum at first, and then a little bit more, and then it's like 100 and something or over 1,000, and she's like, whoa, you had that in your account from the start, and you didn't offer me it? You really are a bad person. And that's great. Like, that's just because he's not gonna bribe her. She's gonna stand firm, and it's like, screw you. And that's just like Charlie's way of like cutting through the bullshit of everyday life. And that's the appeal of the character, is that she knows the score, and she has like, she does have morals. Like, she's not gonna be bribed. Escalate, and there's this whole thing, as I said, where the Richard Kind character gets shot, and he does die, but it's because the other guy has swapped out the bullets, because there's meant to be blanks. Like, the FBI guy who's Charlie knows, he's setting this up as a way to try and force like the mobster's hand and try and get leverage. So he's trying to be, okay, pretend to kill her husband, but then the other guy swaps out the bullets, and the husband is really dead. So that's a nice little twist. And there's certain things where you like, because the cliffhanger before we go to the credits and then jump back in time is the Rhea Perlman character gets in the plane, and Charlie's, for some reason, I don't know why this is, but this is Charlie's thing. She's got like almost like a dummy version of herself, which looks like her, and the Rhea Perlman character gets in the plane. It's like, okay, I'm gonna kill you, and you just hear a shot, and like when you get to that part later on, it's basically just the doll, like the inflated doll that just blocks the shot, and there's a couple of different shots. And I think in the end it turns out that the blank, also there's blanks in her gun, but like, yeah, basically it's this quite slapstick scene of them going back and forth, and so there's some quite fun stuff like that when you see the other end of it. This episode shakes things up and does things a little bit differently. Probably, if I've got a complaint, I think it's just the episode at times maybe goes a little bit too goofy. Like, I think they could have toned that stuff down a little bit, but there was still some, as I said, nice twists in it, and yeah, it had a little bit of a different feel, and once again, there was some fun dialogue, and rest the Rhea Perlman, her character, and they arrest her and kind of say, okay, you can go into witness protection, you give states evidence, that kind of thing. But they do that. They say, okay, but we want you to call off the hit on Charlie. And she agrees to that. And there seems to be this respect between them. And that sort of sets up the rest of the season now, where Charlie's like, okay, I'm gonna start a new life now. I'm gonna start afresh. So it's almost like she feels free and can sort of do what she wants. And that's quite an interesting little twist to it, where like there's things they can do with that, because really we haven't seen Charlie really have any sort of relationship, I don't think, yet. So they could explore her like getting involved romantically with someone. Chose to end episode 3 like this, and they chose to put these 3 episodes out together. I'm guessing then this is gonna stick, basically. Like the hit is off now, and she's no longer being pursued by these mobsters. I guess they could still do a similar storyline, but I actually do appreciate that they've tackled this quite early on in the season, and they just didn't do, okay, this is going to be the same as last season, and potentially they're shaking things up. It might literally just be her going from C to C, and the case stuff. There might not be much more of, okay, there's an arc here or there's a story. It might literally be mostly that stuff, but I don't know. I sort of think there will be some sort of an overreaching story because of the way this is set up, because of the way this thing is. There's a clear full stop at the end of this episode, and then you kind of have her making a point of, yeah, I can start afresh now. I can start a new life. Fun stuff. Solid start to the season. I enjoyed these 3 episodes quite a bit, and it doesn't really feel like it's lost any of its momentum, really. So that's good stuff. So that's Poker Face, the first 3 episodes. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always, and share me out. And I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.